Hello, I have a very exciting guest here today. Hello, Liv. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining me. So, I'm really excited to speak with Liv today because she has a very cool job and I'm always seeing her travel around. So, I had to talk to her. So, I just have to know, Liv, what's your job title and what do you do and where do you work?
So, I work as a project coordinator for Fangirl Fantasy, and in my role, I do a bit of everything, kind of worked my way up, but now I help out with social, I'll help advance shows. I travel a lot to kind of manage shows on the road in a sense, and yeah, it's a lot of traveling, which is really fun.
That is so cool. And where, like, have you traveled recently? Have you been anywhere recently?
Recently did a couple cities in Ohio, done Pittsburgh, probably one of the places I never thought I'd really go that I've been for Fangirl Fantasy, Kansas and
Oh,
Kentucky.
wow. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, uh, lots of places.
So you've been all over. Tell me a little more about Fangirl Fantasy. It seems really cool.
Yes, so Fangirl Fantasy was started by a fellow fangirl, Julie, and basically she wanted to start a company where she could go out and hear her favorite music in the clubs. Her and her friends didn't really find a place to do that, so she created Fangirl Fantasy. So now we do a lot of Taylor Swift, One Direction, Harry Styles, club nights, dance parties, whatever you want to call them. But the biggest thing about it is that it's by fangirls for fangirls. So I feel like we really kind of get that experience across through our own experiences.
That is so cool. And I mean, how did you get involved with Fangirl Fantasy because it was events that you started going to, or how did you find out about them?
So the story of how I got involved with Fangirl Fantasy is a little atypical, I would say, because when I was younger, um, in my One Direction days, my early days, I played basketball, played AAU basketball, and Julie, who founded Fangirl Fantasy, was one of my coaches at the
Oh,
time,
wow.
actually. So we stayed in touch. And when she was ready to start Fangirl Fantasy, she reached out to me and asked if I would want to help at events. So the first couple events, I was just taking tickets at the door, like taking cash, like 18, especially just like, yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you want me to. And as the company's grown, I've been there the whole way. So now I have more responsibility and more things I'm able to do, which is really nice.
That's so cool that you're able to see it grow from like really the very start. And now
Yes.
you have so many responsibilities and it's brought you so many places. And based on how we know each other, I think I might know the answer to this one, but who got you interested into in the music industry?
Yes. So, for anyone listening who doesn't know how we know each other, we've been mutuals on Twitter for ever now.
10 years almost. It's
10 years. Yeah, because of One Direction playing Gillette Stadium. So I feel like that was the point in my life where I really solidified that this was something I was going to be involved in the rest of my life, whether it was my job or just for fun.
Mhm.
Early on, I was a big Jonas Brothers gal. Like I was a big camp rock kid. I wanted to be a pop star, rock star, but and then as I grew up, I was like, I can't sing. So let's go on the other end. But yeah, music has always just been such a constant in my life and has always been my sort of safe space and where I found people who have the most in common with me. And I've just made the most connections. So I think once I kind of solidified that in my mind, that's when I was like, yep, music industry is for me.
Yeah, I mean, the music industry is so powerful. And I mean, even that you and Julie were kind of connected beforehand, and then we're able to connect later down the line. It just brings so many people together. And I think that's such like the magical part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And what is a typical workday like for you when you're not traveling?
When I'm not traveling, it's a lot of bouncing ideas back and forth. It's a lot of emails, some social posting, a lot of TikTok, stuff like that. Mostly like administrative stuff, which is very, very different from like a show day.
I was, but it seems like kind of that those slower days are so important because you plan these great events, and that kind of is what leads up to them.
Yes, exactly. If proper planning isn't in place, things can go badly very, very quickly. Even when there are great plans in place, things can still go badly very quickly. So without a plan, it's just that risk is just even more present and it's scary to even think about.
No, definitely. And I mean, your days when you're not at a show, they seem to be a little more slow, like we were saying with planning. But what about a typical show day or night? How does that kind of go?
Those can get a little crazy. For me, it depends on where the show is. So if it's a show in like Massachusetts or Boston, where I live, it's not as crazy because the travel isn't as hectic. But for an out of state show, typically, I'll fly out super, super early in the morning, the day of the show, and whether that's one flight or two flights or three flights
Oh my gosh.
to get where I need to be. And then the rest of the day really depends on the airlines. My fate is in the hands of the airplane. So flights are on time and everything is going as planned. Um, the DJ and I will go to the hotel and just like drop our stuff off, rest for a little bit before we head to the venue. If the timing's right, we'll get dinner before we go to the venue. Sometimes all of this doesn't happen in that order.
Mhm.
We've had days where we've had to go right to the venue from the airport in our airport clothes, like
Oh
pushing doors back, all of this crazy stuff. But on a good day, we'll go to the hotel, we'll relax for a little bit, eat some dinner, head to the venue, sound check. I'll set up our backdrop for photo booth, and kind of talk to our contact at the venue and just see how we're supposed to settle at the end of the night and all of that. Once everything's all set, we throw a playlist on before doors. And then once the event starts, I take a lot of video for social, just for future content, and then I'll post on our stories and all stuff like that. And then I settle with the venue manager at the end of the night as well.
Okay, so it seems like you have a lot of fun. It seems
Yes.
like it's almost like attending these fangirl events every or just about every night or whenever they are. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems like a lot of fun. And you must
Yes.
be learning so much about the music industry through this. So, during your time at Fangirl Fantasy, what have you learned about the music industry? Maybe something that surprised you or something you never knew?
Hmm. I think the biggest thing that I have learned is the importance of your connections. I don't know that it was a new piece of information to me. I feel like I've always heard that, but I now kind of understand that knowing people makes life easier sometimes. I won't say that if you don't have any connections, it's impossible, but it definitely helps along the way. And once you make that first connection, it just snowballs from there. And I
Yeah.
think it's really great because even if um these connections you're making aren't really necessarily getting you all these opportunities, it's nice to meet a lot of people who are living similar experiences that you are.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so important that you brought it up because I think connections, it seems so daunting. Like you feel like you have to connect with like these big, high up people to even start. But like you said, that's so far from the truth. It's really just talking and meeting anyone.
Exactly. Yeah, and even the smallest connection, like you could say hey to someone selling you a t-shirt at the merch stand, and that can turn into so much for you that you might not have even known was possible.
Yes, it's so true. And like just keep talking to everyone that you run into and be friendly and make those friendships because
Exactly.
like you're saying, these connections are they're like gold at the end because that's what
Yes.
really helps push you along. So that was great advice.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you learned that too. I mean, you seem like your job, like you seem like you do it really well. You seem like you have a lot of fun. What did you do prior to this job that helped prepare you for where you are now?
Um, so I always talk about this whenever I talk about my experience in social media. One Direction taught me everything I know. One Direction Twitter taught me how to run a Twitter account, how to run an Instagram account, how to interact with people on social media, how to spot trends, all of that stuff kind of prepared me for the social media aspect that kind of led to more of leadership.
Mhm.
But Yeah, I learned more from One Direction stan Twitter than college classes, if we're being completely transparent here.
I mean, it's so crazy. I'll always say that too. Being on Twitter and being a fan has taught me more than I need to know than any class I have took. Because
Yes.
you, like you said, you learn to spot the trends. You learn how to communicate with people, and that's so important. And even these people, like kind of like how you are to me, like this is a connection that you're able to make and you can talk to and you can interview whatever. And it's so true that Stan Twitter is so important.
Yes, it's so crazy because even outside of the like technical social media skills, being involved in the industry throughout my life, even as a fan, I know how I want to see an event run. I know what fans love, what fans hate, what they want to see. So it kind of in this environment, it is so helpful to have been surrounded by this my whole life.
Mhm.
And like the connections you form with people, like you were saying, even this, it's so crazy that after like 10 years, we're like, hey, let's chat. Like, what's up?
It's so cool. And people from all around the world, which I think is just amazing. So definitely, I mean, I think I know this isn't my interview, but I would also recommend Stan Twitter because that's just a great place to start. It's like you can't even describe it unless you witness it or experience
Yeah.
it.
You just had to be there. The One Direction days, you just had to be there.
Yeah. It's so true. I mean, Fangirl Fantasy seems like such a good time. I'm like, next time you guys are in New York City, I'm gonna have to drop in. But do you have a
Yes.
favorite memory from your time at Fangirl Fantasy?
Oh God, there are so many. I think there's two, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one of them, I don't know if you've seen it on social or anything, but last year we had our first event. We did a post-game event at Fenway Park after a Red Sox game, and that was just a really cool experience to have hundreds of fangirls just singing Taylor Swift in an otherwise empty Fenway Park with the
Yeah.
logo up on the screens and everything. It was really cool. And then one other experience that was very it holds it near and dear to my heart. It wasn't a direct Fangirl Fantasy event, but I was there on behalf of Fangirl Fantasy, covering the Mix 1041 Beach House last summer that 5 Seconds of Summer performed
Okay.
at.
Yeah.
So I got to go and get content for Fangirl Social, which was really cool, and I ended up getting to meet them. So that was really fun. And then I came home from the Cape and immediately went right to their show in Boston that night.
Oh
So it
my
was a
gosh.
crazy day, but it was fun.
That is so exciting. And getting to meet these idols and see them up close, like these people you've looked up to for so long, that must be a feeling like no other.
It's crazy. It's
That
so crazy.
and meeting 5 seconds of summer, I think, is one of the coolest things a person can do. So that's awesome.
It was awesome. It was so awesome.
And so we've kind of talked about Twitter and how you surrounded yourself with like-minded individuals there to further your career. But what about in real life? So you make these connections, and how do you make sure that you stay surrounded by these people in order to kind of help you progress?
I think that within the industry, knowing where people's intentions and kind of attitudes lie is really important. I will be kind and nice to everyone, professional with everyone, but there are definitely people who you can tell are more genuine. And those are the people I kind of try to stick around. So it's a lot of times I find that it's other women in the industry trying to help other women in the industry and get girls in who are younger and want to have this experience, getting their foot in the door and stuff like that. So I think those are the people I kind of gravitate towards are the ones who are willing to help others more than like gatekeeping and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important because you want to be around like-minded individuals, but you want to make sure that they also are helping others in return too. And I
Yeah.
mean, especially in this industry and especially being a woman, it's not right when people gatekeep like that. That's like my biggest pet peeve because it's hurtful to future careers. So you're right.
Yes,
Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with like the good people, the people who genuinely
exactly.
want to help you.
Exactly. And sometimes as a woman in the industry, it is hard to be taken seriously. So, like, connecting and keeping the people who do take you seriously around is a good thing to do. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you take me seriously. Let's keep working with each other. Let's continue this relationship.
Yeah, such great advice. And especially when you're traveling, you must want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the people you're meeting and knowing. But how do you get used to all this traveling? It's like crazy. You're everywhere.
Oh God. I I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. But all the traveling, I would say it is definitely not for everyone. I personally thrive in the chaos of all of it. I am a person who likes a lot going on. Like I could not sit at a desk all day every day and like just be I can't do that. So as someone who's thriving in the chaos, traveling is good. There's never really 2 days that are alike. The schedule is always up in the air. Like you have to think on your toes, and I like that. So I think that helps me be used to it. The exhaustion is tough sometimes, and I don't know that I'll ever really get used to that. But I think also the fact that it's something I've wanted to do since I was, I don't even know how old, helps a lot. Like it's something I've always wanted to do, dreamed of, all that. So that helps a lot mentally, I think.
Yeah, being able to like see your dreams kind of live out. And I know I also saw a video of you. What were you drinking? Like the ground coffee? Or like, what was that? That you said tasted like dirt?
Oh, so okay, it was guarana powder and it's like a natural caffeine, like one tiny little scoop of it is supposed to have as much caffeine as 2 cups of coffee. And my boyfriend is like, you drink a lot of coffee, you should try this. So I did, and it didn't taste very good, unfortunately.
So stick to the coffee. That'll help keep you awake.
Yep, I'll be drinking my black cold brews daily.
Oh my gosh, black hole burn. Are you a Starbucks or Dunkin' girl?
Dunkin' girl.
Okay, that's the Massachusetts in you.
The New Englander.
I mean, yeah, coffee, you need it to, especially when you're doing all that traveling. I
Oh,
couldn't
yes.
imagine in my day job not having coffee. So now I cannot imagine, but that's some great advice there in itself. But do you have any advice for those who are looking to go into the music industry?
I would say that my biggest advice is just go for it. It never hurts to try. You don't not apply to something because you don't think you'll ever get it. I think, so what? If you don't get this one, your name's out there. You've put in one application, now like the worst they can do is say no, and then you keep looking for an opportunity. You're gonna get a lot of no's before you get a yes. So I think just making those attempts is really important. Even like DMing someone who you think does a cool thing, like, hey, would you want to chat more about what you do? Just building those connections, even if it doesn't really pay off for you immediately. Um, be patient as well, because again, like I said, it's not going to happen immediately. It's going to take some time, but you can do it. In the end, you can do it. It's just about putting in the work, essentially.
Yeah, and that's great advice because no one should ever be afraid to send a DM or an email and just really try to get that connection going. And like you said, the worst thing that happens is you're told no, you don't get a response, and you just kind of move on. So that is great advice because, like you said, never be scared to reach out.
Exactly. The worst anyone can do is say no, and then, oh well, move on. And
Exactly.
that's okay.
And you're going to go off to bigger and better. So there's no need to worry about that. Well,
Exactly.
thank you so much. Those were like the main set of questions. We love to do hot seat questions. Are you down for those?
Of course.
Perfect. I'm so excited. So you're able to have dinner with any three musicians, dead or alive. Who would you pick?
Oh, this is so hard. My first one is Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I'd also put Niall Horan in that mix.
Mhm.
And who's my third? Hmm. We'll go Halsey.
Oh, I think that's like a big three. Though
Yeah,
that's
I
a big
feel
three.
like that could be a good crew. Very interesting crew.
That could be, and I feel like that would be an interesting dinner. What what about your all-time favorite song?
My all-time favorite song is Jesus of Suburbia by Green Day.
I don't think I've ever heard that one. I'm gonna have to go
Oh my
take a
God,
listen.
it's so great.
I'm gonna go take a listen right after this.
Yes.
What about your favorite Taylor Swift album?
Speak Now.
Are you excited for the re-release?
I had a meltdown when she announced it. I was out and I had to excuse myself from the table when
Oh
she
my
announced
gosh.
it. Yes.
I'm so mad that I was not at that concert, even though it was like nowhere near me. I'm like,
Exactly.
good die.
I'm like, no, I should have been there. It's fine.
Exactly. Like I was meant to be there. Sorry. So you can only go to one artist concerts for the rest of your life. Who do you pick?
This is gonna sound so out of left field considering everything I just said, but I think it would be the 1975.
Okay, okay.
I've
So
Yeah, I've always said that they're one of my favorites to see live because they have enough discography to like move around with the set list and like they're just such good performers. So I think it would be them.
oh, okay. I
Also
haven't seen them
affordable.
live, but that's oh, what did you just say?
They're also affordable. I'm not paying $600 for a ticket, which is
Yeah,
lovely.
that's hard. Yeah, no, that's a big no. But what about your biggest inspiration?
I would say, do you want like celebrity inspiration or personal life inspiration? Because I have an answer for both.
Do you want to do both?
Okay, yeah. So I would say within like life and music, famous person inspiration would probably be Halsey.
Mhm.
Because she started small and kind of worked her way up and has always been very vocal about her opinions and kind of sticking up for herself. And I feel like I've learned a lot from her over
Yeah.
the years. And then I think personally, Julie is one of my biggest inspirations because same thing, really. She started from the bottom and kind of just worked her ass off to get to where she is today and still um kind of tries to help others out. Like I was saying earlier, will try to get people opportunities and kind of remembers like where she was once. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that's so sweet of her because those who remember where they were and what it took them, and then giving those opportunities to others. And I think Halsey's also a great one. So I think you have like two strong female leaders there. I love that. Or
Thank you.
personal. And what about the best boyfriend of all time?
Well, we know my answer. That's One Direction.
I was gonna say, I think there's only one answer here, but it is.
Yes, it's One Direction.
And what about an album that everyone needs to listen to at least once?
Again, this is gonna sound so controversial considering how much I just talked about Taylor Swift, but Continuum by John Mayer.
Oh, okay.
It's such a good album, and I just think that everyone needs to listen to it at least once.
He does have good music. I'll give
Like,
him that much.
exactly. Forget who's singing it. The
Exactly.
album is good.
Yeah. Well, Liv, thank you so much for joining me today. I had such a great time speaking with you. And I am looking forward to a Fangirl Fantasy event in my area. So I hope all of my listeners are going to do the same.
Yes, thank you for having me.